I'm reevaluating all my social media behaviors and why I use social media, what it does for my business or for me. For example, over the course of the summer, I haven't been on Instagram. I think I've been there 3 times total, just in and out quickly. And that was by accident, out of some kind of habit. But I haven't been on Instagram all summer. I'll be back in the fall probably with some pictures. But you know what? It's good to step away from it for a while, just to figure out if it's worth using at all. This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. You know, I've said on here a lot of times how unhappy I am with the way the internet has turned out for people and for businesses, for small businesses, for artists. It's doing really well for the platforms and the tech billionaires, but it's not doing so well for everyone else. They've ruined it for everyone, for us. So that's why I've stepped back from Instagram. I just don't like the platform. I think it's disgusting now. It's like a slot machine of videos. And once you get on it and you get in the loop of putting pictures up every day because you somehow feel like you must, or putting content up every day because you feel somehow you must, but there's no real reason to do it, that's a problem. You're in an addictive loop. From Mark Zuckerberg. The funny thing is here the other day, yesterday, he was announcing that he was working with the government, the U.S. government during the pandemic to alter the messages that Facebook was spreading or talking about. You know, this is like, he said he's not going to do it anymore. You know, these platforms they're just horrible, and they're not doing society any good, I don't think. That being said, the podcast is now on YouTube. I've uploaded everything to YouTube. There's no video there yet. I experimented with a little bit of video creation to put up a video overlay to put on top of the podcast episodes as I uploaded them to YouTube. But you know what? I'm not going to put in that extra work. Why? Why should I put in the extra work for Sundar? For Sundar. Like the monopoly, Google. Why should I put in the extra work for them? No, I just use their tool to upload the podcast, the 81 episodes up to YouTube from the RSS feed, the podcast feed, you know, which they allow. Because you see, Google just turned off Google Podcasts for some reason, which a lot of people were using. I was using it. I liked it. It was simple, clean. It did what you wanted. It didn't have any bloat or anything. It was probably taking all your information and selling it and monetizing it, but it was still kind of a clean program. But anyway, Google eliminated that, so left everyone hanging. But they created this utility to allow you to upload your podcast to YouTube, which is what I did. All right. So the podcast is available now on YouTube. If you search for Cannabis Goldsmith, you'll find it. And you'll be able to listen to episodes on YouTube now. So there you go. Automatically, it gets updated as we upload the episodes here. So I've done that at least, but I'm stepping back I've stepped way back from social media. Well, the purpose of creating content for me is because, well, of a few different reasons. One, it's because I want to learn how to create content. That's the most important reason. And by content, I mean images, text, stories, ideas, communicating ideas to people on the internet, our customers, people who are not our customers but might want to learn about what we do here at Tribe by turning cannabis into jewelry designs in precious metals. I mean, reaching out is important, and I'm going to continue to do it. So it's practice. All this stuff I consider practice, but with social media platforms, as you use them, you become addicted to them. It becomes more than kind of learning or practice. It becomes something that you must do, or you feel shitty if you don't do it, or whatever. But if you step away from it for a month even, you have no real desire to go back to it. And this is, I think, what all these social media companies are terrified of. The people can give up the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Twitters or the X's or whatever, the TikToks. If they can give it up for a month, they'll never go back. Now, I don't know if that applies to younger people, but I know to older people that definitely applies. So they want to keep you hooked onto this, so they can keep filling their bank accounts. That's why I stepped away from social media. And you know what? I felt guilty. When I did. It was like, why should I be feeling guilty for not working for free for Mark Zuckerberg? Like, why? But somehow they instill this thing in you where you're like, oh, I should be posting on Instagram, even if you have nothing to say, So just creating stuff for these platforms to monetize and to get richer and richer on at our expense. So anyway, I've stepped away from social media, and actually all summer I've been working on these. As I explained last week, I was in this kind of doldrum, but it's more than that. It's like I've been working on new product designs, yes, but they haven't been working for me, and I just keep doing it over and over, and it's like hoping for a different result. And no, I'm not getting a different result, but I'm learning along the way. And eventually I've modified my designs a little bit, and I'm working on, I'm doing this work that has to be done that you can't show people until you do it, right? Until it's realized. And what I mean by that is, like, you have to make your mistakes in the studio, and you have to make errors in the design, and you have to try all this shit that doesn't work before you wind up at a place where you're producing something that just feels right, and it says what you want it to say. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm doing all this experimentation in the studio with these products that are not working the way I want them to work. And during this whole process, I'm learning techniques and skills and what doesn't work. I've changed different materials that I've been using before that I thought were perfectly great. And this is a kind of clay, a kind of modeling clay that I use by Sculpey. I was using one type, and I thought this was the best type, but now I've since discovered there's another type that's even better for my purposes. So I've been using this other type, and the details are getting more. The details are resolving better in my jewelry mock-ups that I'm making. So what that means is that I've been working with a material that is was not the best. I could have been using a better material, which for me is a danger, because I always want to default to something that I trust and that has worked well for me before, whether it's a good paintbrush or whether it's a good wrench or whatever kind of tool it is. If it's worked well for me before, I want to keep using it. But which is great, that's fine, but it might exclude new products and new tools from your work, and from prevent you from being able to do work that you can't do with your existing tools. That's what I'm saying. So it's always nice to try something new, but it's hard for me to do it. Now, like especially when it comes to tools or stuff like camera lenses or cameras or the tools I use in my business and in my life. If just switching up something that I trust is hard. But these days the products themselves are getting worse and worse. Like my camera gear, all the gear used, the lenses used to be made in Japan of the finest quality and metals, made in metal and very fine optics. Now they're all made in China out of plastic. Like, it just, they're saying that the resolution the quality is as good, but is it? Is it? I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me. And as an artist, as a craftsperson, you get to know what stuff feels like when you feel it in your hand. You can tell quality. You can tell what somebody's put into it, and if you feel it. But anyway, this was going to be a show about the difference between art and craft. And I've already spent 10 minutes talking about how much I hate social media, even though I'm not on it anymore. Fuck, it's just a horrible thing. Anyway, I'll be back there in the fall with pictures and stuff, no doubt. But listen, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to be. We're feeling like I'm in a hamster wheel or on a treadmill for Zuckerberg. That's not going to happen anymore. Now, if that could only work with X, I have to get off Twitter or X or whatever it is. I'm on there because of the politics, but I have to get off there for my mental health. It's basically a fire hose of crap coming at you every day. Don't need that. Anyway, art versus craft. So the other day I was in my local nearby town, Prescott, Ontario, on the St. Lawrence River. Truly a beautiful little town. There's a little yacht club. There's a lighthouse. There's like farmers markets on the weekends. It's just a beautiful little town. It's very quiet. It's on the St. Lawrence River. It's across from Ogdensburg, New York. But it has like 3 craft stores, or what seem to be craft stores, in the town, downtown. And these stores sell everything from marmalades and jams to woodwork. And anyway, I walked into one of these shops. I've been into all of them, and I'm finding a hard time telling them apart, actually. And I think that would be a way they could get better businesses, by differentiating from one another in some way. I don't know. If maybe they could work out a deal where one just sells jam and the other sells woodwork or something, or just like, to split it up. Because right now there are 3. It seems to me there are 3 stores that sell similar products in the same little town, where there's only like 20 stores. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, the one craft store I walked into in Prescott, it was just rammed with local crafts and stuff that made by local artisans in the area here. And this is what people who are visiting as tourists in southern Ontario buy. But also locals go in to look for stuff. Like I was in there looking, just poking around, seeing what was there. And there was everything from jewelry. I talked to a woman who was working at the counter, and she had some jewelry in the store. What the store is they work by consignment, and people make stuff and leave it there, and then they leave their business cards there. It's like a mini gallery for local crafts and art. And I was thinking there's so much, there's really way too much in this store. And it needs to be curated differently, perhaps, in a way that, I don't know, it just needs to be curated differently, maybe. I don't know. I was trying to think of ways how it could be better. Either less stuff or more stuff in a bigger store. I don't know. But anyway, is that art? Is the stuff in there art? Like I spoke to this jeweler. Her rings were beautiful. She was making these rings out of like silver and laminated paint, which I'd never even heard of before. It's where you get paint drops and you put them you arrange them in a way in water, and they float to the surface, and then you peel that off and you dry it and you put it in resin, and you make these patterns and stuff in jewelry, or you put that paint stuff, the paint pattern, under a glass, kind of a protective glass surface in a ring, like a glass, a thick glass, flat, what am I looking at? Like a bezel, right? And that little painting would be underneath that, and you put that into a silver ring. So that, I would consider that jewelry and also art if it's done nicely. And this woman was doing that, and she had a tray of rings there in that shop that she was selling. And she said she was from Quebec, as far away as Gatineau. So that's like an hour away or whatever. So hour and a half. Now here these shops are collecting all these local craftspeople. So I was wondering, how are art and craft different? Like, are they? I always thought art related to more fancy stuff that's in galleries, something where you have critics, you have a snobby art people looking at it, deciding, how much it's worth. And then, but craft is something different. Craft is you go to the garage sale and you find the crafts that somebody bought once upon a time on the table for $1. That's what I thought the difference was between art and craft. It's like, there's a sense I have that art is better, but it's not better. These are two different things. And sometimes they can be the exact same thing. So these two words, art and craft, to describe what we do as artists and craftspeople, are kind of limiting, and they're also, I don't think they're accurate. Now, generally speaking, people create art to express ideas, concepts, emotions. And sometimes the pieces have aesthetic qualities, or they're very beautiful, or something you can put on a pedestal or hang on a wall. Other times the art is just hideous, right? That it's just ugly. It makes you want to barf. I remember going into an art gallery with a friend and seeing these huge black paintings years ago in Toronto with they looked like, I don't know, God, it was volcanic surface burnt, like huge canvases. And when I left, I felt sick, right? Because the emotion of the canvas was just gross. It was just barfy. And then when I left, I felt barfy. So that's the aesthetic quality of those pieces. But that's what the artist wanted to convey, I think. He wanted to just make people feel nauseated. And he did that. I can't even remember who it was now. But craft is something about creating objects that have a practical function. Like, for example, a breadboard that is made out of wood that a woodworker has made. A beautiful, beautiful breadboard made of hardwood or maple, sanded, polished, oiled perfectly. It can be a beautiful piece of art, and also functional. So something that can be used. So the piece in a craft is functional, usually, and decorative. But art expresses a kind of idea, a concept, an emotion, something the artist wants to say. With our stuff, the intent is both. Like, I want to say something with our jewelry pieces, but I also want to create objects of beauty, and I want to follow techniques that jewelry people have used over the ages to the craft of jewelry manufacture, the goldsmithing, the silversmithing, the finishing, the all that stuff. That's the craft of it. The art is the idea. The art is the idea that you can wear cannabis as jewelry, as high jewelry. Now, the difference between art and craft in process. Okay, artists are really fluid in in the way we do process. Like we can do anything, everything, experimenting with new techniques, materials. Like my tendency is to get stuck on using the same tools, but often it's better to try switching it up, try new tools, try different things, try different ways to express the idea. Now, craft is about skill, precision, mastery of the techniques of, say, woodworking. You know, you make a nice breadboard. You really do. It's like all the edges are perfect. The sanding is nicely done. It's perfect. It's the quality. You're focused on producing high quality, consistent results. Craftsmanship is what that is producing high quality, consistent results. So the process might involve, both art and craft might involve similar processes, but art is broader in the type of process that is used. Okay, originality. Art tends to be original, unique. And even when an artist creates like a bunch of the same pieces, they all say different things and they're original. Now, craft often involves replication. So breadboards, there's 12 breadboards in the craft store, and they all look kind of similar. They're all really well made. But there's a look across them, and the individual creativity in the product is something that you can see if you look at 10 breadboards made by or cheese boards made by the same person. So it involves replication, and art tends to be less replication. Now, in a cultural context, here's another way art's different than craft, or craft and art differ. Art is seen supported by a whole bunch of art, a scene, right? An art scene. Critics, galleries, people who consider themselves artists, people who shit on artists, there's a whole art scene. This is it's associated with like, I consider it snooty. But craft is more folky, it's more traditional, it's more functional, it's objects that are tied to everyday life. Like with me, with our stuff, like if I make a really expensive belt buckle out of a cannabis leaf cast in sterling silver, I mean, it's a beautiful art piece that can be shown in a gallery or museum. But it's also, I think, consider it kind of folk arty too, because it's functional, and it's a buckle that can be worn with a purpose. It says something in an art context, but it's a functional piece that can be worn in everyday life. Now, perception and value. This is the marketing piece, the last difference between artists and craftspeople. The idea of value. Art is considered more valuable because of its emotional impact and the unique vision of the artist who produced the art. If it's beautiful or hideous or whatever, that adds other qualities to it. All this, the perception is supported by the cultural and social context. So the perception of the art is buffed up by the art scene to generate excitement or whatever. So art seems to have a higher cash value, it seems to me, if all the other factors support it. Now, craft is valued for its beauty, its functionality, and the skill that the craftsperson put into making the breadboard or whatever. But it has less of this. It doesn't have this scene support from a bunch of critics, art critics, or galleries, or whatever. And so it's more of the people. It's the art of the people. But generally speaking, one can be the other. A craft Craft can be art. Art can be craft. The definitions are just that. They're just words. They're just definitions. Make art. That's what I think. It's the idea, as David Lynch says. It's the idea, the art idea, the idea that you want to make something. You want to make a breadboard, okay? A wooden breadboard, but you want it to be different than other people's wooden breadboards. Although you want it to have that same shape, maybe the same thickness, but somehow it has to be different. And the art comes into that, right there, in that space. That the artist can widen that space up and either figure out a way to laminate stuff into the wood of the breadboard when they're making it, or put inserts into the breadboard, or do something arty to the breadboard to make it more art than breadboard, than functional. Although it will still be both. Like we do. I try and make a jewelry piece that's functional, that you can wear, but is also a piece of art that has a jewelry design element to it that's unique, different, and beautiful. It can be worn as a beautiful object, but it has a meaning. And the meaning is the cannabis meaning, and the meaning of the plant. To me, as the artist, to the country, to Canada, because we are the Cannabis Goldsmith, and we're based in Canada. And we've been making these products since legalization in Canada, and using the wonderful plant in order to make these designs. So what I consider what I do both an art and a craft. And I'm always trying to improve my craft skills, so the craftsmanship. I'm trying to get better and better, because that enables me to make better art. So both these things are related. So anyway, don't think that if you're an artist, you're a craftsperson, or if you're a craftsperson, you're not an artist or whatever. These are just words. Right? You are what you are, and you are what you make. I keep going back to David Lynch. He's like, it's like fishing. You bait the hook. You want to make something, and you put it in a river, and you wait. That's all you can do, and the idea will come, and you'll pull it out, and you'll go, whoa! I've never seen anything like this before, because it's come from something larger than yourself. Now, with craft skills, you can make it exceptionally good, exceptionally high quality, if you have the skills you've honed in making crafts. But the art is the idea itself that comes out of the water, that you've, from somewhere, that this new idea to make a new kind of design, or a new kind of painting, or a new kind of pottery, or a new kind of belt, or a new kind of knitting, that is different. That is somehow different. That's what makes it better, I think. Anyway, that was kind of a show about art and craft today. How about that? Anyway, back to this whole social media thing. I'm sorting it out mentally. I was worried at first that I was missing something, fear of missing out. Not missing anything on social media. I was afraid that, people would forget what our products are about. And no, I mean, they'll find us. If online or wherever, they'll find on the podcast. So somebody will send me an email and say, dude, can you make me a grinder? Or dude, can you make me a belt buckle? Or yeah. So that's how it works. So send me an email to get on our mailing list, and I'll let you know what new stuff is happening. I won't spam you, but if something really good is coming down the pike, you'll get first notice of it. So send me an email and say subscribe in the subject line, and I will subscribe you. Anyway, that's it for me. I've been working on this buckle, like I say, for months, and it's I've done a few. Fewer designs are locked down and ready to go, so I can produce those. But there's one design I've been working on. Ooh, it's been fighting back, and I've been banging my head against the wall trying to make it, and it's just failing and failing and failing and failing and failing. And I'm thinking, God, why am I doing this? Can I stop? When should I stop? How do I stop if it's not working? But the whole thing is, while I've been doing this failure, I've been learning different stuff. I've been learning craft. I've been learning my craft better. So I've been learning new materials to use. Different clay, for example. I've discovered that's better to use. It'll all come together in the end. It always does. Anyway, that's it for me. Another ramble this week. This changing of the seasons here. The summer is over. The plants are well over 12 feet now tall. I've got 3 outdoor plants that are over 12 feet tall. They're huge, but the leaves are still not cooperating for jewelry making. They will. As the plants flower, what happens is the leaf shape changes again, and I'll be able to get some nice small leaves closer to the flower buds that I can use for jewelry casting in order to make rings and precious metals. I'm waiting for rings for leaves for rings. It's just hasn't been the case this year. It's just not working for rings for some reason. But plenty of leaves for buckles, so that's what I'm doing. Taking advantage of what I have here to use. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. You can see what we do at tribe.ca. Send us an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith.